Good morning, everyone. Thanks for your patience. And now we start our presentation. I'm Christine Chong from CIRS China. Today it's my honor to be here to give all of you this presentation about interpretation of the catalog of hazardous chemicals. Since we didn't set the Q&A, so please feel free to contact me with following email if you have any question or concerns. Now let's start this webinar. First of all, please let me give you a brief introduction about CIRS. Our main office are located in Hangzhou, China, and Ireland. The numbers of the employees is more than 120. Our service is including the product registration, regulatory compliance service for EU and Asia. We have kinds of business units like industrial, chemical, cosmetics, pesticide and biocide, food contactor and food, medical device. What I'd like to share with you today is about the following 5 parts. The first one is background in China. The second part, I will introduce the new catalog. The third part is comparisons with the previous version. The first one is what you really need to be aware of regarding to hazardous chemicals regulation in China. The last part, I will show you some case study which based on our experience. Now let's move on to chapter 1, background. This is an overview of chemical list in China. As you can see from this page, China department divided all the chemicals into 2 groups. One is called new substance. That means chemicals are not be listed in the list of existing chemical substances in China. The domestic companies who manufacture or imported these new chemicals in China should do the notification and submit the risk assessment under MEP order number 7. Another group is called existing substance. There are about 45,000 kinds. Among these, there are also some catalog or lists which are used for the management of dangerous chemicals. The orange section stands for the hazardous chemicals in broad sense. They usually have GHS classification. The green section is the not imported and exported. And the red one, especially for the priority hazardous chemicals for environmental management. If the substance belongs to the green and blue section, it is required registration. For the catalog of hazardous chemicals, also need to apply for a license. The chemicals in the red sections, please submit a risk assessment and PRTR. Here is an overview of hazardous chemical control law. Based on the Degree 591, NRCC SAW also published several orders related to different steps. For the manufacture and storage, we can reference the SAW order 40 and 41. For use, please refer to the SAW order 57. For operating and marketing, we can reference SAW order 55. And for registration and emergency rescue, we can refer to the SAW Order 43. In this page, we can see the timeline of hazard waste regulation in China. On March 15, 2002, China regulation on the safety administration of dangerous chemicals came into force. Along with the Catalog of Hazardous Chemicals 2002. Then the Decree 591 came into force on December 1st, 2010. From then on, this regulation becomes the main law regulating existing chemicals and the main law for implanting GHS in China. During the next 3 years, SAW Order 41, 53, 55, and MEP Order 22 came into force. Until September 26, 2013, the draft version of Catalog of Hazardous was published, which has caused wide concerns in public. Now the new catalog will come into force on May 1st this year. The next chapter, I'd like to introduce the Catalog of Hazardous Chemicals 2015. The new catalog consists of the instruction and 2,828 catalog. For the instruction, which is including 4 parts. The first one is a definition and determination principle of hazardous chemicals, which clarify the hazard characteristic category. The second is a definition and the decision boundaries of toxic chemicals, which specify the date constraints. The third one is the meaning of each column. The last part is other matters. At present, everyone is most concerned about the upcoming guidance document, which contains the chemical identifier, GHS classification, and hazard description. Company can reference this information to prepare the SDS and level for hazardous chemical registration. While for some products still need to do the hazard identification, the first situation is contains one and more hazardous compounds, which included in catalog, while hazard properties of whole product is unclear. The second situation is no any compounds included in catalog, and the hazard property of whole product is unclear. The third situation is one included in catalog, while come out some new hazard properties. After the identification, company can ensure whether your product needs to do the hazard registration or not. Thus, takes extra time and cost. In Chapter 3, I will give you the comparisons with the previous version. Compared to version 2002, the concept in version 2015 seems more clearly. The items slightly reduced from 3,814 to 2,828. The new catalog no longer lists the dangerous goods number and UN number. The obvious difference between 2002 and 2015 is new catalog introduction, the GHS classification, and the building block principle. In the new cohomology, there are more than 90% are per substance. So for the mixture products, we still need to reference its GHS classification to confirm if it should do the registration. The difference between 2015 and 2013 is the items slightly reduced from 2,936 to 2,828. In new cohomology, no longer show asterisk item. Pesticide item reduced about 8%. Now let's move to the key points of today's presentation, what you really need to be aware of. Based on the Hazardous Chemical Management Degree 591, there are 3 obligations for companies. The first one is implementing the license system for producers, operators, users of hazardous chemicals in the cohomology. The second one is requiring hazardous chemical registration. And the third one is requiring mandatory GHS, SDS, and labeling for hazardous chemicals. I will explain more detail about these 3 issues during my following presentation. First of all, let's clarify the definition. In the broad sense, the hazardous chemicals are defined as highly toxic chemicals and other chemicals which are toxic, corrosive, explosive, flammable, and do harm to human body, facility, and environment. Actually, chemicals meeting GHS hazard chemical classification criteria should be regarded as hazardous chemicals on the degree 591, excluding the certain categories such as flammable liquid burst. There are different requirements for different hazardous chemicals. For all hazardous chemicals which have GHS classification, need to provide the GHS, SDS, and the labels, and registration with NRCC if an chemicals is confirmed to be hazardous by authority. For cohomology hazardous chemicals, you also need to provide the GHS, SDS, and the label, requiring the license, requiring registration, and extra requirements on packaging, storage, use, and transport. You can use our CCIS system to check your existing substance whether it be linked into the previous or the new cohomology. The first obligation for you is a license requirement. If you are a Chinese domestic company and your product compounds in the cohomology, please apply for license before the following 4 activities. Please be noted, for the use license, this is a new requirement on the degree 591, only applicable to some industry sectors. For transportation, also applicable to transportation of dangerous goods outside of cohomology. The second obligation is hazardous chemical registration. There are 2 departments supervise the hazardous chemical registration in China. The first one is called National Registration Center of Chemicals. We call it NRCC. The scope of Order 43 is Catalog of Hazardous Chemicals, which meets the determination principle. and the hazardous chemicals is confirmed by authority. The notified body is domestic producer or importer. And the 24 hours emergency number, GHS and Updates-Label are all mandatory under Order 53. From our experience, we advise you to register the hazardous chemicals which falling into the Catalog 2015 GHS classification. Another department is called Ministry of Environmental Protection, MEP. Under MEP Order 22, if your substance listed in the toxic chemical severely restricted to be imported into or exported from China, the foreigner suppliers or Chinese importers or exporters need to apply for an environmental administration registration by SCC MEP. If your substance belongs to the Catalog of Hazardous Chemicals, the domestic manufacturers or producers who use hazardous chemicals need to apply for the environmental administration registration by your local environmental protection authorities. Here is a specific situation for your substance which also belongs to the PHC, Priority Hazardous Chemicals for Environmental Management. Thus, environmental risk assessment report created by the designated institution should be provided to authorities when applying for a registration certificate. The pollutant release and transfer register form and the environmental risk management plan should be submitted before the end of January of each year. The third application is the China GHS. Here shows all the national standards in China. For classification standards, we reference the GB 30.2 to 29, 2013, which fully adopts UN GHS version 4 with 28 hazard classes. When preparing SDS, please reference the GBT 16483 2008 and GBT 17519 2013. For the labeling, you should refer to the GB 15258 2009 and GB 190 2009. A full Chinese SDS is composed of the following 16 items. The most important one is the second one, hazard overview. In this part, the GHS classification, pictogram, and signal words will be shown on your SDS. Here is a template of China GHS label, which consists with a product identifier, signal word, pictogram, hazard statement, precautionary statement, and your supply information. For chemical packages of 100 milliliters or less, we can use a simplified label. The precautionary statement can be omitted. In order to make you have a good understanding, let me give you some case studies. Here is the inventory listing statements about 5 products in 3 lists, about the catalog of hazardous chemicals, list of toxic chemicals restricted to be imported or exported, the property hazardous chemicals for environment and management. The main obligations for chemicals listed in the Catalog of Hazardous Chemicals 2015. If you act as a domestic manufacturer, you need to production license by SAWS, the hazardous chemical registration by NRCC, environmental administration registrations by MEP, and provide the SDS and the level on the China GHS. If you are a domestic user, environmental administration registration by MEP is required. If you are a domestic operator, please apply for operation license by SAWS. For domestic importers, especially for users and traders, you need to do the hazardous chemical registrations by NRCC. The foreigner manufacturer or suppliers, you just need to provide the SDS and levels on the China GHS. The main obligations for a chemical listing of toxic chemicals restricted to be imported or exported. If you are acting as a foreigner exporter, apply for a registration certificate for the environment management on the import of toxic chemicals. If you are domestic importers, apply for importer clearance notification for your every benches. Also, the domestic export needs to apply for export clearance notification for your every benches. The main obligations for chemicals listing the priority hazardous chemicals for environmental management. Both domestic manufacturer and the domestic user need to apply for environmental administration registration by MEP and submit the risk assessment report and PRTR. Here is a special case about the chemicals which are not listed in the Catalog of Hazardous Chemicals 2015. While with severe GHS classification, we advise you, if you are a domestic manufacturer, please do the hazardous chemical registrations by NRCC and provide the SDS and the levels under China GHS. For domestic importers, we advise you to do the hazardous chemical registrations by NRCC. And the foreigner manufacturers and suppliers need to provide the SDS level on the China GHS. Here is all my presentation today. Thank you for your time and attention. Don't hesitate to email me. I'm willing to answer your questions at any convenience. And welcome to contact me via LinkedIn. Thank you.